You know, I grappled about starting this show with this, but it's kind of become politicized, but it is important, right? Friday's jobs report, let's kind of cut to the clutter, the noise of mainstream media, because it always becomes focused on politics. So on that note, we got to go back not just to the FOMC meeting on Wednesday, but how about July 17th, right? Chris Waller, he made his case for cutting. This is July 17th. He said, in his opinion, tariffs are a one-off increase in prices. They do not cause inflation, just a temporary surge. Second, a host of data argues that monetary policy should be close to neutral, not restrictive. And his final reason to cut is that while the labor market looks fine on the surface, once we account for expected data revisions, he thinks it's at stall speed. That was an understatement. Of course, he did dissent, right? Now, as for the debate about data collection, look, this is not new. It's not new or politicized. It's not new. I can tell you, I have been pounding the table on this for a very long time on this show. One of the reasons that we're in the age of AI. It should not take 90 days to get the story straight when policy is in place based on that information that's crushing the middle class. See, we can actually do things like this. We can game when the Pentagon is ready to go to war. Did you guys remember this last year? So they compared Google activity, using Google activity at a Domino's Pizza, juxtaposed to the little gay pub, to find out if people at the Pentagon were either at the Pentagon working overtime or not. This is what we can do in real time. So I keep saying, where's the high frequency, right? We should be doing high frequency at the very least. And by the way, this is not new. This is a pretty good article here from 2022. High frequency, it's out there, it works. I do suspect that the Fed is considering it a lot more now than they were before. I want to bring in now Jim Bianco, president, research president. You know, Jim, you had a lot to say on this topic over the weekend, some great posts, including pushing back on the notion that these revisions are sort of normal.
They weren't normal. These were some of the largest revisions that we've ever seen. But Charles, what you were talking about is right about a whole new approach. The problem with what we're doing now is, and the problem with a lot of economic data is it's all based on surveys. We ask people their opinion, and we hope that the sample that we get of people that are asking their opinion are broadly representative of the larger country. Well, all surveys, whether it's government surveys, customer satisfaction surveys, or the dreaded political survey, no one answers them anymore. You can blame SurveyMonkey. We get way too many of them right now, and they're all kind of been poisoned by, political surveys being biased. And so the BLS has a problem that they rely on surveys. No one answers their surveys. They're getting, the people that do answer them have a skew. They have a certain type of interest in answering the surveys. And this is when they finally get the data, all when said and done, we get these giant revisions.
So to that point, though, there was a lot of pushback on the idea that they could do better, right? I mean, you kept hearing the term gold standard to kind of justify the status quo.
Yeah, they got the best buggy whip in an auto era is basically what they mean by, yeah, I don't know if they could do any better if they were to do surveys. But there's other ways that they could measure this. They could look, they're part of the government. The IRS is part of the government. Everybody who has a paycheck gets withholding. They could look at real-time withholding data. There's state unemployment insurance data. They could look at that in real time. They could derive the state of the labor market from that kind of data. It's not a survey. It's not asking representative samples of their opinion. So, yeah, I guess the problem with the gold standard is we've taken this buggy whip as far as we can go. But we're in an auto world right now. Why don't you try and get in a car and try and do something a little bit different? And whenever you ask them about that, and then this is where I get really critical of them, then they start whining about that they don't have enough money and how much money is it going to cost and how difficult it's going to be. To which I say, call Elon Musk or call Alex Carpet Palantir. They'll help you do it for free if you really wanted to.
By the way, you did an interview with the Wolf of Wall Streets, and I didn't get a chance to listen yet, but I saw the rundown. Some great stuff here. A couple I want to ask you about, because one thing that I don't think gets enough attention is the notion of fiscal dominance. Can you explain that to the audience?
Fiscal dominance means that this is what Trump says all the time, right? Cut interest rates because then our interest costs will go down. That's true. But what that means is that monetary policy is driven by lowering interest costs. What happens if we get inflation in that environment? You're supposed to ignore it and keep interest rates low, and that can become a real problem. Besides, the Fed and the Treasury have kind of agreed back in 1951 through an accord that the monetary policy, the Fed is not supposed to consider interest costs. That's Congress's problem. If we've got too much interest costs, they should cut spending, not look for the Fed to try and ease the burden by lowering interest rates. They're supposed to worry about inflation, not about interest costs.
I got a minute to go. I zeroed right in on this, why rate cuts fail.
Yeah, the reason rate cuts fail is because when the Fed moves policy up or down, the market makes an assessment. Is it the right policy? If it thinks it's the wrong policy, it might do the opposite. We saw that last year. The Fed did cut rates last year, September, November, and December, 100 basis points, 1 full percent. And when they did that, the 10-year yield went up. And that's because the bond market said, you know what, we don't think this is the right policy. You're stimulating an economy that doesn't need it. We've got too much debt. And we're afraid that there's going to be more inflation, higher borrowing costs, and actually the act of cutting rates pushed interest rates higher. So yeah, that's why, it matters where the market is, and it matters what the market thinks. So you just can't just willy-nilly cut rates and expect like mortgage rates to follow. They may not. Okay. Hey, Jim, always appreciate these, and I love when you get on a roll like that this weekend. Talk to you again soon. Thank you. All right, well, next guest has actually been calling for rate cuts for